welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson, and this is the news. Day 35 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has passed. Despite Russian statements that forces were being withdrawn from Kiev and Chernihiv, both cities were shelled by Russia, along with other targets. In return, Ukrainian forces hit an ammunition depot in the Russian city of Belgorod, causing a massive explosion. Telewizja Republika's Michał Czesniewski is on the ground in Ukraine.
Ze wschodniej strony, czyli na lewym brzegu.
The gateway to Kiev from the east is the 100,000-strong town of Brovary. Since the beginning of the war, the Russians have been trying to capture it, while the Ukrainian army has been repelling these attacks. The Russians managed to capture smaller towns around Brovary, such as Velika Dmerka, Shevchenko and Baryshevka. People are fleeing from there. The Ukrainians drove the Russians away from the Brovary and liberated two more towns, Rudnitskaya and Lukyanka. They were strongholds. Hundreds of Russians fled from there and dozens died. The Ukrainians evacuated the population in order to demine the town. Brovary itself is not in danger, but most of the inhabitants have fled anyway, and people from the east are arriving. There is no confirmation of the news that Russians are withdrawing from Kiev.
Rosjanie się bynajmniej spod Kijowa nie wycofują.
Poland has decided to cut the import of Russian coal and oil. According to Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, Russian oil will stop flowing to Poland by the end of the year. In turn, in an interview with Gazeta Polska, Deputy Prime Minister and Chairman of the Law and Justice Party, Jarosław Kaczyński, said that Russia is moving towards a further escalation of the conflict and sanctions must hit Russia where it hurts: oil and gas imports. In an interview with the Gazeta Polska Weekly, Jarosław Kaczyński indicated that sanctions against Russia must be imposed by the entire international community. We should all agree with the latest Pentagon dispatches, which speak of a long war. I think so too. All the indications are that it will be a long war. There will be no quick end to this genocide, all the more so because it does not receive an adequate response from the world. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has announced a move away from Russian coal by May this year at the latest. In return, Poland is to increase domestic coal mining and imports from countries such as Africa and Australia. Poland is also to move away from Russian oil imports by the end of the year. We present the most radical plan for Europe to move away from Russian oil, Russian gas and Russian coal. This most radical plan is needed in order for Europe finally to come to its senses. The Prime Minister also called on the European Commission to introduce a tax on Russian hydrocarbons. Yesterday, the Council of Ministers adopted the assumptions for updating Poland's energy policy until 2040. The basic change in this policy, at the same time the fundamental change, will be the addition of the first pillar, sovereignty. We are ready for this sovereignty, and it was and remains our priority since 2015. The most important changes are increased technological diversification and expansion of capacity based on domestic sources, further development of renewable energy sources, improvement of energy efficiency, further diversification of supplies and providing alternatives to hydrocarbons, implementation of nuclear energy, development of the grid and energy storage. We have worked very hard. We have adapted so that we are able to select such a basket of crude oil that will be most optimal for our use in our refineries. And we have managed to do this. This consistency, the favour of the Prime Minister's government, has led to the fact that we are independent at all times. The Deputy Minister for Development and Technology, Piotr Uściński, pointed out that the strategy of making Poland independent from Russian hydrocarbons was started by the late Lech Kaczyński and is continued by the current government. For the time being, we have to act at the national level, but we will urge, or at all time urge our partners from the European Union and the whole world to cut themselves off from Russian sources. Editor-in-Chief Tomasz Sakiewicz points out that we are dealing with the bloodiest war in Europe since 1945. Therefore, sanctions must be decisive. These actions should be in solidarity, or let us do at least enough to harm Russia. If these are EU actions, then this is a real blow to Russia and will cut it off from money. Today, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki met Dmytro Kuleba, Ukraine's foreign minister. The topics discussed included Ukrainian-Russian negotiations, the current humanitarian and military situation in Ukraine, and the documentation of Russian war crimes. Educational institutions in Poland have already accepted 150,000 children of Ukrainian refugees. Polish teachers and students welcome their colleagues from across the eastern border in a dignified and open-hearted way, creating a new history of Polish-Ukrainian relations. But they will be not taught in Ukrainian in Poland. Ukrainian children are to integrate in common activities.
W pierwszej kolejności
In the first place, we are the leading authorities and educational supervision bodies for Polish pupils studying in this system. Our primary concern is to ensure that the education of Polish children takes place in an undisturbed manner. This is why we do not provide privileges for these or other pupils. We do not want to introduce such privileges. As far as the 8th grade exam is concerned, we have numerous measures for Ukrainian children, such as translation of math tasks into their language and the possibility of giving answers in this language, as well as extending the time for the Polish language exam. There is so much we can do in such a short time. By noon on Wednesday, PKP Intercity had issued more than 1.5 million free rail tickets to Ukrainian citizens. From the 1st of April, the company is introducing new rules for free rail travel for refugees from Ukraine. Only women, children, people with disabilities and those aged over 60 years of age will be able to travel free of charge. At the moment, the number of people coming to Poland from Ukraine is falling. This means that we also have to adapt our offer to this fact. We are trying to do this. We have reduced the number of additional trains. Where there is such a need, we increase the number of trains. For example, in Helm, those departing from Przemysl already have a better offer. Therefore, we want to direct the help to people who need it most. To be able to collect a free train ticket, you will have to belong to a group of women and children, people with disabilities aged between 18 and 60, or people over 60. Secondly, you will need to show your Ukrainian passport with proof of having crossed the Polish border after the 24th of February, or proof of identity. Since the beginning of the crisis, we have provided additional carriages for 1,500 trains, which means that 5,000 additional carriages are running. This is all for the transit of refugees from Ukraine. At the moment, the railway is functioning as in the summer peak. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.